The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
We all know that last Sunday, Klal Yisrael celebrated Torah, celebrated Loimdei Torah. The Adirei HaTorah Maimed was off the charts. I know a great Rosh Hashiva who told Reb Malkiel Kotler Shlita, you know me, I always have something to say about everything. I have nothing to say about this Maimed. It kept me quiet. I'm in awe, in shock. Well, anyways, Itaka was beautiful. But you should just know, nothing happens by itself. And there were a lot of people that gave up from their time to make it happen, to make it orderly, to make it that the Rabbanim should be brought in mechubed, and everybody should have a nice seat, and everybody should feel special. And afterwards, this week, the people behind the whole Adirei HaTorah went and made a get-together for these 45 chevra that helped out to make the thing a success. And they served some food. They even had, I think it's Meir Adler, the musician that came in from Eretz Yisrael, he came back this week for a job in America, and he came also, and he played a little bit. And first, the man behind the whole shindig spoke. And he said, Rabbi Isai, there was nobody in that Maimed that got more covered or more brachas than me that night. And I know I couldn't have done it without you guys. So Mamela, whatever covered and brachas I got, I'm sharing it with you. I'm giving it to you. You should also have part of it. And then Reb Malkiel spoke. Reb Malkiel Kotler Shlita. And he said a Mesirat story. And he was trying to say how when people want to do something, when there's a rotzain, ein davar ha'emed b'fnei rotzain. And he said a story about his father. Reb Shnei Kotler, when he was a little boy, his intestines got inflamed. And they knew it's only a matter of time before the infection explodes and the boy dies. And they got to get him to a surgery, to a hospital, to a surgeon immediately. And it was very hard. There was no hospital in Kletsk. I think they were in Kletsk. And they had to go and take a train to Baranovich, and then from Baranovich to Vilna. And Reb Shnei was already a boy, but he was sick. So Reb Aaron Kotler, his father, went and bought him a first-class ticket. Now, the first class in the trains in Europe had a bed. So while the train is traveling, you could catch up on your sleep. So Reb Aaron bought him a bed, the first-class ticket, and he came to the first class, and they checked this door, and it was locked. They went to a different one, all the doors were locked. Finally, they found one room that was open. They come in there, and they see a guy sleeping on the bed. But that room had a second bed. So Reb Aaron told the Reb Shnei to go lay down in the second bed. So the Bacha went, Reb Shnei, and he lay down in the second bed. And after whatever amount of time, the guy in the first bed woke up, and he sees someone else in his room. And he says, what are you guys doing here? So Reb Aaron explained to him that his son is having an appendix attack, and he has to get him to the hospital in Vilna, and he bought a first-class ticket, and all the rooms are locked, and here is the only room he found open, and it's an empty bed, so he figured that whoever's sharing the room for sure would not mind sharing the room with a little boy that's about to die if he doesn't get the proper medical help. And this Yid, who's in the bed, the Fry Yid, he was a very big lawyer, and he had a lot of connections. And he took one look at the boy, and he says, this kid is never going to live to get to Vilna. You got to do surgery right now in Baranovich. So Reb Aaron told him, yeah, I'm asking, but I can't get through to the doctor. He's never going to give me an appointment. We tried. It's not a geya. But in Vilna, I know people, they're going to get me in over there. So the lawyer says, I know people in Baranovich. He got outside by the next stop, and they went, there was a public phone over there, and the lawyer got on the phone, and he made a couple of phone calls, And he told Rabban, the Dr. Baranovich is in the hospital right now, waiting to do surgery on his son right now. And they first went to the hospital and they saved Reb Shneya's life. When there's a rotzen, it happens. There was a rotzen. People wanted to help him the light. People wanted to bring up the level of Torah in the world. And when there's a rotzen, it happens. And Reb Malkiel sat down. And suddenly, this Adler, this Mayor Adler, the musician, he walks up to the microphone and he says, Rabbi Isai, nobody asked me to speak, but I have to say something. He says, first of all, when I came back to Eretz Yisrael after this Maimed on Otzim Neura, I came back and I couldn't go 2 feet without people bombarding me about this Maimed. They were so impressed. The whole world is talking about it. I had to push it hide. And I came back this week. And I came to this party tonight, and I have to tell you something that I saw in a Hagdama of a Sefer. In Europe, before the war, there was a tremendous Talmid Chacham, and he had a son, a young little boy, and the father would learn with him. He didn't have money to pay for a Malamed. He was teaching him the Aleph Beis, and never one day the father was nifta. And the boy tells the mother, Ma, Tati's not here to learn with me anymore. I need someone to teach me. I want to learn Torah. And the mother says, what should I do? No Malamed is going to teach you for free. I don't have any money. And the kid did not stop bothering the mother. And he made her crazy. I want to learn Torah. And finally the mother said, listen here. Enough is enough. I don't want to hear this from your mouth ever again. I want you to learn Torah. You want to learn Torah. I don't have money. It costs money to learn Torah, and I can't help you. So please never ask me this again. A little while later, they emigrated and they came to America. They come to Ellis Island, and instead of going to Brooklyn, they sent them to Pittsburgh. They come into Pittsburgh, and the mother enrolls the kid in public school. And the kid didn't have any contact with Yidden. And then when it came Yom Kippur, he decided he's going to go find a shul. And he comes to the shul, and he sees other Yiddish kids there. And he's schmoozing with the kids, and they ask him where he learns, and he says, he learns in public school. He says, what do you mean? We have a yeshiva over here in Pittsburgh. He says, yeah, but my mother can't afford the tuition. So one boy says, I heard that in Williamsburg, there's a new cheder that opened up, Salem. And Salem Yeshiva accepts everybody, even if you don't have money for tuition. And the boy says, really? He says, yeah. He says, I'm going. He came home and he told his mother, Ma, that thing that we're not supposed to talk about, I understand. Not talking about it. But I want to learn Torah. And I found out that there's a yeshiva, Salem in Williamsburg, that doesn't charge any money. I'm going. Bye. And he was out of there. And he went to the bus stop. And he wants to take a bus to Brooklyn. And he comes in, they tell me he has to take a bus to Penn Station. It's $2.50. He doesn't have a nickel. He sees that there's big virum coming with taxis, and they have these big suitcases, and they have to go to the right bus. He goes over to them and says, listen here, I'll schlep you a suitcase to the bus if you give me some money. And they say, sure, no problem. And he schleps the suitcase, and this guy gives him a quarter, and that guy gives him a quarter. After 3 days, he had plenty of money, he bought a ticket. He comes to Penn Station, and he wants to take a bus to Williamsburg. He doesn't have any money. He goes to the stores there, and he says, can I clean up and bust the tables? Just give me some money. And after a couple of days, he had money, and now he's ready to go to Williamsburg. He doesn't know where Williamsburg is. He sees a Frumma Yid, and he goes over to the Frumma Yid, and he says, tell me, I need to go to Williamsburg. The guy says, it's going to cost you $1 to go on the bus. He says, I have $1. I want to go on Williamsburg. He says, okay, I'm not going to Williamsburg. Why are you going to Williamsburg? He says, I want to go. I heard that there's a yeshiva there at Salem. It doesn't cost any money. I want to learn Torah. He says, oh, you Hazabacha, you want to learn Torah? I'm going to take you to Williamsburg. I'll show you where to go. He takes the boy and he brings him to Williamsburg, and the Bacha goes to Salem yeshiva. He walks in there and he opens up a classroom and he sees a bunch of desks. There's nobody there. He walks into another room. Weiter. There's nobody there. This Rabbi Adler says that he saw this in Hagdama to a Sefer, that the boy says all of a sudden he hears in the back of the building there's a yard, a courtyard, and the Bachrim, they're playing. And they're coming into the class. They come back into the hallway. And the Rebbe's standing by the door and he says, "Der was will lernen Torah, komm rein in class. Whoever wants to learn Torah, come into the classroom." And this boy followed and he went into the classroom. And the Rebbe looks at him and says, "I never saw you before. Who are you? What are you doing here?" He says, "Was heißt? You said whoever wants to learn Torah, come into the class. I want to learn Torah. Teach me Torah." And the Rebbe says, "Doesn't work like that. You gotta go to the office. You gotta meet the manal. He has to give you a faher. He has to put you into the right class. You can't just walk in." He says, "Okay, I'm sorry. Just tell me where to go." So the Rebbe went and took him to the manal's office, and he comes to the manal's office. And the manal says, "Shalom Aleichem, what's your name?" He tells him his name. And he says, "What can I do for you?" He says, "I want to learn Torah." He says, "Sure, no problem. What do you know? You know Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra, Gittin, Kedushin. What do you know?" He says, "I don't know anything." He says, "You don't know the Aleph Beis?" He says, "I know the Aleph Beis, but that's it. My father was Nifta. He only taught me the Aleph Beis, and I know nothing. I don't know Chumash, Mishnayos, Gemara. I don't know nothing." "What are you learning?" He says, "I live in Pittsburgh, and I go to public school, and I'm finished with that. I want to learn Torah. And I heard that you don't charge, and I'm coming here for Torah." The principal says, "Listen here, we have a problem. I can't put you into the class." He says, "Why not?" He says, "Because in the 7th grade that you were in, where you belong, you're not going to understand the word that they're saying. You don't know Chumash, you don't know Mishnayos, you don't know Gemara. How are you going to learn?" He says, "So put me in the primary. Put me in the 1st grade to where they're learning Chumash." He says, "So you're an 11-year-old boy. You're going into it together with 5-year-olds?" He says, "I don't care." He says, "Let me think about it." The principal thinking, and he says, "No. I'm so sorry, but it's not going to work. I can't help you." The boy says, "No problem. I understand. It's your Mesirat and you can make your own decision. But you have a piece of paper?" He says, "Yeah." He gives him a piece of paper. He says, "No. Could you do me a favor? Can you write on the piece of paper the following?" He says, "What do you want me to write?" He says, "Write that he tells him his name, came from Pittsburgh to Salem Yeshiva to learn Torah. And the Menahel said, 'No, we're not going to teach you Torah.' And sign your name." He says, "Boy, Yingala, why do you need such a paper?" He says, "I'll tell you why I need the paper. He says, I'm going to go now back to Pittsburgh. And I'm going to go to school, and I don't know what's going to happen to me. Maybe I'll polish people's shoes or dig coals from the mines or become a doctor. I don't know what's going to happen to me. But I'm going to die eventually, and I'm going to come to Shamayim, and they're going to say, 'No, did you learn Torah?' And I'm going to say, 'No.' And they're going to say, 'Why not?' And I'm going to tell them, 'Here's the paper. I went to Salem Yeshiva in Williamsburg, and they told me, no, we're not going to teach you Torah.' That's all." The Menahel started to cry, and the Menahel said, "You're right." And he put him into primary. And after 3 months, he was already in the 8th grade. And the Sefer ends off by saying that thousands and thousands of Bachrim Talmidim went through this boy's class because he taught Torah la'alofim u'lerevavos. Ve'ein davar oimed b'fnei haratzain. If you want something, if you want to learn Torah, you could learn Torah. You just have to want.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org